So here's a huge difference for you in your golf swing. If you present the golf club with the loft like this versus the loft like this, that's going to make a huge difference to the distance and the trajectory that you create. Also, the opportunity of hitting the ball in the right part of the club to get the right contact becomes massively easier too. So we're going to look today at how we can present the club correctly to make it strong, powerful, and give you that purposeful strike to allow you to play better golf. So the best players in the world lean the shaft forward. They also launch the ball extremely low. So for a 7-iron, tour average launch is about 17 degrees. The loft in the 7-iron is about 34 degrees, depending on your manufacturer. So there's a lot of de-lofting going on. That happens from hitting down on the golf ball, leaning the shaft forward, and obviously getting that club face in a square position relevant to where we're swinging. A lot of amateur golfers will open the club face and lean the shaft back and lean the body back, therefore presenting a lot more loft at contact. And also where we hit it in the face, if you hit it higher in the face, you'll get a higher launch as well. So let's work through how you can achieve the right conditions to be the best version of you. So allowing yourself to de-loft this club correctly. I've got a T-peg in the ground here, just angled like so, about this kind of angle. If I said to you, forget about the golf swing, how would you knock that tee into the ground consistently, just like I did then? That's what we're looking for you to try and feel. We're looking for the club head to feel like it is creating that knocking into the ground feel. Ideally, we do that at the same time we pull the handle up. That is basically the golf swing through impact. Obviously, the direction of the swing is important too. But if we tend to get the hands in this more dynamic position more forward, you'll see here that the club tends to travel on a more what we would class as in to square to in path or an in to out path. If we're cutting across the golf ball, it's very hard to knock that T-peg in the ground unless we do it with the sole of the club, which we definitely don't want to do. We want to compress it into the ground. So the first exercise will be very much simply that. Just get a T-peg, practice knocking it in the ground. Don't think of it as a golf swing. Just think about it as, how can I bury that tee into the ground? How can I dig this club as if I was digging a little trench, a home in the garden? It's not a golf swing. It's purely kind of like almost like a hinge and hole type effort. How does that feel? Then we're going to go and hit a golf ball with that same sensation and a tiny little mini swing. That's kind of stage one. And hopefully you can see that ball flight. It's super, super low. The club hasn't had much of a fall through. The energy has gone into the ground as opposed to through. We do want the energy to go through. That happens with the added rotation and extension I'm going to add when I do a normal swing. But certainly if we can start to feel that compression, that's a great start to how contact should feel in terms of energy off the club and efficiency off the club. So knocking that T-peg in the ground and that kind of hinge and hole style is kind of the first thing I would like you to do. The second task is using an alignment rod. Stick it behind the ball, just inside your trail foot. And again, we want the club to be going down, traveling this way as we hit the golf ball and getting us what we feel elbows and arms forward. So we're just going to use this as a visual prop so we don't land the club behind the ball. If we want to try and make it more exaggerated, we can obviously move this alignment rod further in, or we can use something that's a bit thicker than an alignment rod. But alignment rod is something that a lot of people have in their golf bags. And putting it here to start with is just a good visual to get your brain working, especially for your warm-ups. How do I move forward? How do I shift my energy, my pressure? And you notice as I do this, my ankle gets past the rod. Obviously my hips, my trail hip, my butt, all getting past that rod quite easily, hopefully. But that's certainly what we want to feel like. We could stand here, use that alignment rod as a bit of a guide, feel that everything moves past that alignment rod. And you'll see there a nice meaty divot after the ball into contact. Again, I'm only hitting that slowly at this moment in time. And that's what we do, is we build up to hitting full power shots with the same environment to try and influence us to really create that really powerful low launching strike. That one was just great. Nice divot, great contact, great direction, great distance. And all I tried to do then is use the feels from the first two exercises and still have that as a visual. The third way to feel this kind of shaft lean and de-lofting facet that we're talking about in the golf swing, we take a rod, place it down the club, have it sticking out the end just like so. Take your address position, and again, How big a gap can you create between the rod and your body as you swing through the ball? And you'll see there that it creates excessive shaft lean. The thumbs are pointing down, the rod is pointing down. Got loads and loads of space. Hit some chip shots, build up the power, build up the length of the swing, but try and certainly use that feeling of getting those arms as far forward as you can, leaning that shaft at the greatest angle you can to create that most pressure and the most de-lofting. And we're really trying to launch these balls as low as we can. The last thing, and this is really, again, mostly visual, like a 2 alignment rods here. And I want you to imagine there's something across the top of them. And we're going to try and hit the ball as low as we can underneath that kind of crossbar. If you imagine, if we were an American football player, obviously we're trying to hit it under the horizontal post. We can put some tape across here if we wanted to add to this task. But for me, I'm just going to try and feel like I'm going to launch the ball under the 2 little black dots on the top and try and launch it as low as I possibly can. And I've got this obviously in the direction of my target, so it's like scoring a goal. So I'm working on direction a little bit at the same time. But I'm really just trying to feel, can I launch it as low as I possibly can? Now and there, great strike, great flight. Tiny bit of draw on it. Probably the ideal flight and strike if I was playing that I would want. Nice little bit of turf interaction. Strong. So it went, you know, the most efficient version of me I can create. And that's all we're after. Have a go at these exercises and see how they influence your norm. And that's, again, the big thing I try and talk about a lot of my videos is not necessarily having 2 swings, a new swing and an old swing, but it's trying to influence how you move naturally by doing some tasks, doing some exercises, and then taking your natural swing to the golf course, maybe with a little concept, maybe trying to visualize those 2 sticks every single time there and trying to hit it underneath as a task.